Hello, my furniture refinishing friends. This is Shannon with Black Sheep House. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about something a lot of furniture refinishers struggle with, and that's painting a piece black without having any streaking going on, especially when it comes to applying the top coat. I have some innovative ways to apply the top coat, as well as a new paint that you may have never heard of before. It's very affordable, and I'm excited about it. I found it on accident, and I'm blown away by the quality of this paint and how well it works for painting furniture dark. So this is going to be a great video. I'm excited to share all this stuff with you. First things first, I'm removing this ugly old hardware. Well, it's not my taste. I'm sure somebody loves this kind of stuff, so I never throw it away. I always save it, and I may sell it one day, or if it comes back in fashion, use it. I found this dresser for about $80 at the local Goodwill near me, and it's in excellent condition. It didn't need any repairs. It had a couple of minor scratches. It smelled great. This was just a go for me. I would rather pay the $30 extra to get the dresser, pay $80 for the dresser, and it to not have any repairs that need to be done, versus paying $50 for a dresser that's going to take me 2 days to repair. Look how clean this thing is coming. This is a great project. Always have some tack cloths on hand to remove any dust. You don't want to apply too much pressure when you're wiping down your dresser, or otherwise you'll leave like the waxy residue behind. And I do reuse these many times on projects. Your secret ingredient is the Ovation Plus paint. I found this on accident. I've been so crazy about this paint. I don't know what they put in it, but it is different than other wall paints, okay? This is not a latex paint. This is not what you used 10 years ago. It's a lot more like General Finishes milk paint. It's the acrylic based formula, and I love General Finishes milk paint too, but it is pricier. And this paint, I can get it after tax and everything. It's like a little bit less than $20 a quart. And now, I realize that that's about the same price as a lot of people would pay for chalk paint, but hear me out. Chalk paint is such a pain because it reactivates every time you put your top coat on it, unless you're doing a wax-based top coat. And it's just a pain for me. I've really sworn off chalk paint in a lot of ways. I use my one-step paint recipe for most other projects, but I haven't figured out how to do my one-step recipe with black paints yet. But this is my favorite paint to use in my one-step paint recipe. And you can check that video out on my channel. It's just a one-step paint that you can use. You don't have to clear coat it or anything. So first things first, I go on with just a brush. This is a little stiffer bristled brush, so I can get into the nooks and crannies, and I want to just apply the paint as evenly as possible. That's step number one, is just get the paint on there. I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh, you should have primed it, but this paint adheres so well. It adheres like chalk paint. It's a really awesome product. I'm telling you, I'm not sponsored. I don't even... You know what I mean? I'm never going to be sponsored. It's not really my gig. But this stuff I'm in love with it. I hope they never change the recipe. Then you're going to go over it with a foam roller. This is the key to getting the smooth finish, the sprayed look finish. Of course, it's not going to be as high quality as a sprayed on finish. But honestly, to the naked eye and to most people who aren't professional painters, they are not going to know that this is not a sprayed on finish. Even myself, I'm happy putting this finish in my home. Very happy. It looks wonderful. Especially with a matte finish. If you're going with something shiny, then a really shiny finish, then maybe you might need to use a sprayer. But this method works so well for me. It conserves a lot of paint. Sprayers really use a ton of paint. They make a ton of mess. And I can come out here and knock out a project in a couple of hours, guys. A couple of hours. I can knock out a piece of furniture and flip it and make $200, like $300, and I'm done. Now, I say a couple of hours. It's probably like from start to finish 4 hours, to complete a project like this. I consider like an hour for cleaning and prepping, an hour to paint it, an hour to paint another coat, and then an hour to clear coat it. That's kind of how I mark it in my schedule, and it's how I price it. So you can see up close. I really wanted to show you guys like in depth, because many of you have watched my other videos where I paint furniture black, and I don't think I zoomed in enough to really give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. And I think a lot of people were skeptical, like, oh, well, she's taking pictures from far away, of course it looks smooth. But no, this really looks smooth up close, like real smooth. So bigger pieces, like you want to work in sections. So a bigger piece like a table is trickier to do. I've done a table recently and it was really tricky. This amount of area, like the top of a dresser, you'll want to do it all in one go, okay? So treat it all as one piece. Apply it all the paint. Get it on there. You don't want to go too lightly with the paint because then it'll dry up on you. I'm also working in the winter time, and so paint is drying slower, which is really working to my advantage. I'm going to smooth it all out with the brush. Again, it's kind of a stiffer brush. And I'm wiping away any excess paint. Just using those reusable plastic containers I get from the lunch meat. I just save them after I have ham or turkey or whatever. Then you're going to go over it with your roller. A lot of people ask, like, is the roller dry? The roller is dry when I first start the project. And then as time goes on, as I'm doing the project, the roller will fill up with paint a little bit. And so what I do is either switch out rollers or I wipe away the paint. Like I'll roll it on one of the sides and just try to roll off as much paint as I can. Like on the next dresser drawer, I'll like roll it a few times. So anyway, you want to get that all in one continuous movement from top to bottom and then work your way across the piece and then go around the edges. So you're going down, up. This is a little bit of a zigzag, up, down, up, down. I'm not applying a ton of pressure. There's very little pressure here. Up, down, and you'll leave it. Leave it. I try to get as straight of lines as possible so that if, yeah, that's where I'm holding my brush, guys, by the way, while I'm sitting here doing up, down with the foam roller. The brush is in my, in my teeth. All right, so you can see the lines where I rolled it while it's wet. And so I imagine if you used a shinier sheen of paint, it might show some of the roller lines, but this is a satin finish, and by the time I was done, there were no lines left from the roller. And then same thing, all one section, and then roll. There are no bubbles happening. If a bubble did show up, it would get popped as I'm doing the roller. So, but there are really, this paint doesn't produce a lot of bubbles, which is great. My one-step paint recipe, because you put the clear coat in it for my other videos and stuff, that one can sometimes get bubbles going if your roller is too wet. And that's the other thing. That's how you'll know for sure your roller is too wet, is your roller is filling up too much, is it'll start getting bubbly. You're finished. So keep a couple of rollers on hand. My favorite are the Whizz high density foam rollers with the little yellow inside, but I've used every kind of foam roller, high density foam roller there is. The Whizz are better, but see, guys, I do take the drawers out sometimes. I know most of my videos I keep everything vertical, but look at me. I took the drawers out. Is it easier? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I could have done this all with like a small little bristled paintbrush in between and stuff, like, but I'm kind of like agile, I guess, getting in the nooks and crannies. It's a pain either way. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's a pain. But I took the drawers out for you guys. One reason not to do it this way is because now that your drawers are horizontal with the floor, you have now created a bigger area for debris to land in your finish. And that's why cabinet refinishers, when they paint cabinets, they hang them sideways when they paint them instead of laying them flat. Now I realize, like, a lot of DIY people, you know, laying them flat is the only way, but there's definitely some advantages to painting your surfaces vertically so that you don't have debris falling on them. But anyway, to please you guys and to show you I did actually know how to take the drawers out of a dresser and paint it this way. I do. I did it this way on this video for you guys. Just for you guys, to avoid all the hate comments. I guess they weren't hate, but anyway. Another little thing that I do personally is I finish the whole dresser. And then I will go back and use this little brush to paint like the feet and stuff and like any areas that I might have missed, because I find that when I use my regular brush, it gets like debris all on my regular brush. And because there's always something on the floor, you know, even if you put a piece of paper down there, there's dust on the bottom of the dresser maybe too, like that you missed. So that's just what I do. I don't use my regular brush for feet. It's like in the shower you have like separate soaps for separate parts. I have separate brushes for different parts of the dresser because I'm not... Okay, so we're going for coat 2 here. And I did the same application method. Nothing has changed. Same brush. Same type of roller. I may have washed this in between. I will do that too during a project. I'll go in and like wash my stuff if I feel like it's drying out or just getting a little bit too full of paint, or I'll switch them out. You'll see me do that. The only thing is, if you do decide to wash your sponge or your brush during the painting process, you want to make sure and get that sucker really dry before you go back out and try to paint, because if there's any water in your sponge or in your brush, like noticeably wet, then it will make your paint look streaky. So here it is up close. I want to show you guys like up close of it dry. See, you can see all those imperfections from the hardware, but you can't see the imperfections in the paint, right? And then up top it's still drying, so it kind of looks like textured when it's still drying, but once it dries, it looks pretty smooth. All right, here is the innovative way to apply your top coat. Using a foam roller, but not rolling it or swiping it. I don't know what to call this method. You guys help me out. Maybe there's a formal name for it, but I found this method out by accident one day because I have ADD, and I was like, hey, wonder what would happen if I just drug it along and it didn't make bubbles. The goal when you're applying your top coat is to try and not reactivate the paint that you just put on there. So that's why chalk paint is such a mess, because when you go to apply your top coat, if it's not wax, because wax doesn't reactivate it because it's not water-based, but a water-based top coat goes in and reactivates the chalk paint and you're smearing your paint all over there. That's why I'm loving this HGTV stuff, because it doesn't get reactivated. It's got some sort of like washability to it, and that's what you're going for. You want to have like a washability to the paint before you put the top coat on, and then you can apply it with ease. But even if you are using chalk paint, or maybe you're using general finishes, I have done this technique and I've had some pretty good success. So I'm not saying you can't do it with those paints. I'm just saying I prefer not to I prefer something that's got a little bit of sheen to it. So here I am applying it, dipping it into the clear coat with the foam roller, just holding it like you would, I don't know, hold... I have no idea. What am I talking about? But anyway, just dip it and then swipe it across and then go around the edges, and then on the edges I'm kind of turning it and going to some of the dry spots, and then look, I even had some drippage on the holes, and there we go. I just dab, dab, dab. Those suckers are gone. Dip, swipe. I do try to get like a continuous motion as much as possible. Dip and swipe, okay? So you're going to probably go all the way across, all the way across. And when you do that continuous motion, you get a little bit of buildup on the edges, and that's okay. Just go through with the dry part of the foam roller and absorb any excess clear coat. You can dab, you can swipe, whatever you need to do to clean up those edges. But the idea really needs to be one swipe across the front, you know? Clean up any drippage. This is definitely the time to go around, you know, check it twice before you go on to your next drawer. And you see it goes on milky. It's going to look super streaky. You're probably going to be panicking if you've never done this before, but it will dry clear, I promise. And it'll look super sleek. I did go with a matte finish, which even a matte finish is going to have a little bit of sheen on it, especially since my paint had a satin finish. So this thing does have some sheen. You guys saw in the pictures, right? And that was with a matte finish. But I choose a matte finish because it is more forgiving to flaws on the actual dresser and also flaws in my paint job. Because as good as this stuff looks, guys, it's not perfect, you know? Like, I did paint this in my garage. No one would know that, but I don't know. Maybe a professional painter might know that. It's so funny because now I go around, like, and I look at doors and I look at trim and I'm like, ew, there's a hair in that. Or like, ew, like they just painted right over that, like, flaw in the wood. Like, I'm real judgmental of painting jobs now. All right, so again, treating it like one section on the top here and trying to go from swipe, 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 okay? And then after you get those swipes done, you really got to leave it alone. You can't go back and fix anything on the top of the dresser, but you can go around and clean up the edges. So that's why when I'm doing the top, I just let the edges and sides drip. Let it be messy on the edges because you just want to get the top nice and clean and you want to work on that wet edge, meaning that when you do the next swipe, that your previous swipe is still wet. If your previous swipe is dry and now you're swiping, that's not a wet edge and you're going to get more streaks that way. So you do have to work quick and in one step, one line after the other, like you're laying hardwood floor. On these edges, sometimes I'll dab and sometimes I'll do a little bit of like a swiping to clean up anything. Hey, look, the Amazon man came and delivered some hardware. See what we got here. I was pretty excited when I found these on Amazon and I shared it with my other friend who refinishes furniture. I was like, dude, did you see these? Looking good. They're solid wood. You can get them in a couple different finishes. They're like $2 a piece. And here it is. Guys, that thing is tall, dark, and handsome. Here's the before. It looked great before too, hey, but this is a much more my speed, and this is what the people want, this is gonna sell. And you could do this with your furniture too. I'm so happy that you guys watched this video. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, your comments, your kind words of encouragement, your support has meant so much to me as I grow this small channel. I'm aiming to just share everything I learn with you guys along the way and save you hours of trouble. See you in the next one. Bye.